Beyond these gilded walls, where even the air tasted of jasmine and deceit, a different kind of justice was meted out. Swift, silent, absolute. A young woman, perhaps new to the harem's treacherous dance, would sometimes catch the sultan's eye. A gaze held a moment too long. A flicker of hope, of ambition in her dark pools. A dangerous spark in a world designed for shadows, for fleeting pleasures, never for enduring power. The morning after such an indiscretion, her place at the sultan's side was invariably empty. Her silks, her jewels, her very scent, gone. As if she had never existed, a breath unremembered. But not without a trace, no. Her absence was a presence, a chilling reminder etched into the very stones of the palace. And another, carefully chosen, would fill the void, her eyes meekly lowered, her breath barely audible. A seamless transition, orchestrated with a precision that defied the chaos of desire, the sultan's own fleeting fancies. This was not the sultan's whim, you understand. Not the passing fancy of a man burdened by the immense weight of an empire that stretched from the Danube to the Nile. No, this was the will of a far older, far deeper power. A shadow that fell upon the very throne itself, eclipsing even the sun of the world. The Valide Sultan. From her chambers, a gilded cage woven with threads of dynasty and the sacred bloodline, she cast her intricate nets. Each thread a whisper, each knot a silent command, binding the fates of all within its reach. I watched, unseen, from my vantage point behind the ancient pillars, a silent observer of this ruthless game of queens. I saw her, regal in her bearing, her gaze piercing the very fabric of the court, seeing not just faces, but intentions, vulnerabilities. A single piece of raw silk, perhaps a sample for a new gown or a cover for a perfumed box, would slip from the polished wood of her table. An accident, one might think, a trifle. But in that silence, pregnant with unspoken threats, I knew. That falling silk was not an accident. It was a sentence. A verdict, passed without a word, without a sound, sealing a destiny with the quiet finality of a dropped stone. The air in the harem was thick with secrets, yes, a symphony of hushed conversations and veiled glances. But this was a different kind of silence, the silence of absolute, unchallenged power. The terrifying silence of a predator surveying her domain, ensuring the survival of her own bloodline, her own legacy. No one was meant to hear the true pronouncements, the true decrees that shaped the fate of women, of men, of an entire empire. The betrayals whispered into pillows, the faint scent of poison on a favored dish. These were the tools. But I did. I heard the silence. I saw the invisible hand. I saw how this shadow, this formidable woman, truly governed the vast realm that men, in their arrogant delusion, believed was led by the Sultan himself. A dynasty built on steel and unwavering faith, yes, but ruled, truly ruled, by the silk and the cold, unyielding will of a mother. They speak of power in steel, in the roar of a sultan's decree. But I tell you, true power, enduring power, rarely wears a crown openly. It dwells in the unseen, in the shadowed corners where the silk rustles and the air grows heavy with unspoken truths. Her name, whispered with reverence and dread, was not carved into monuments. Her strength was not the sword, nor the grand imperial edict. No, hers was a more insidious art, a fractional lift of an eyebrow. The precise timing of a servant's arrival with the Sultan's sherbet, perhaps a little too sweet, a little too cool. A mere whisper, barely audible above the fountain's murmur, yet potent enough to reshape futures. She ruled not lands, but the very landscapes of men's hearts, their soaring ambitions, their gnawing fears. She became the arbiter of destinies, the silent architect of an empire's inner pulse. And why? Not for conquest, not for glory, but for survival, for the immutable, sacred bloodline that coursed through her own veins, and more vitally, through the veins of her son, the Sultan. Every calculated silence, every subtle manipulation, every choice was a testament to this primal, relentless drive. They were not acts of good or evil, these decisions. They were simply necessary. An undeniable cost paid for the survival of her blood, for the continuity of the dynasty. I recall a moment, a letter, ornate, sealed with the insignia of a powerful pasha from the eastern borders. It never reached the Sultan's hand. I saw it, later, discarded amidst the refuse of the kitchens, its wax seal shattered, the parchment torn. A silent death. No one questioned why. No one dared. The air grew thick with unspoken understanding, a heavy silence that spoke volumes. They will tell you, those who have never truly known the palace's dark heart, that the harem is a place of pretty faces and idle gossip. Fools. It is there, amongst the scented cushions and the veiled glances, that the truest, most ruthless politics are not just played, but born. A silent war, waged with glances and sometimes with a subtle hint of poison upon a cup's rim, where betrayal blossoms in the shadow of a smile. And she, the Queen Mother, was its undisputed empress. He sat upon the gilded throne, a crown heavy with lineage resting on his brow. The Grand Vizier bowed, the parchment offered, the quill dipped. A stroke, a signature, and a man's world, perhaps his very breath, ceased to be. The chronicles would record it as the Sultan's decree, an act of sovereign will. But tell me, my dear, when the ink bled across the vellum, whose hand truly guided that imperial quill? Whose name, precise as an arrow, was whispered into the silent chambers of his thought? Observe the ritual, ancient as the stones of the palace itself. Before the dawn of a crucial decision, before the weighty pronouncements that shaped the dynasty, a cup of sherbet would appear. Too sweet, perhaps, too cloying. Its ruby depths, innocent to the casual eye, promised calm, clarity. It settled the nerves, smoothed the jagged edges of apprehension. But what true purpose lay hidden beneath that sugared facade? Was it merely to soothe a troubled mind, or to dilute his resolve, to soften the edges of his own fierce instinct, leaving him susceptible to a more pliable truth? A new face in the harem, a sudden, unexplained favor bestowed upon a girl barely out of childhood, eclipsing the seasoned beauty who once held the Sultan's gaze. A whim, they would say, the fleeting nature of a man's desire. But here, within these walls, desire is but a currency, and every shift in affection, every whispered intimacy, is a strategic maneuver on a chessboard where the pieces are flesh and blood. If the blood of a favored concubine, rising too swiftly, too boldly, threatened her blood, threatened the sacred purity of the lineage she had so painstakingly cultivated, then a replacement was not a caprice. It was a preemptive strike, silent as falling snow. The Sultan, in his kingly ignorance, believed he chose. He chose the decree. He chose the new favorite. He believed his heart, his mind, his imperial will were his own. Yet he unknowingly made a choice that had already been made for him, a path already etched into the very fabric of his destiny. The delicate porcelain cup, held so casually in his hand, seemed harmless. A sip, a moment of reprieve. But who truly knows what words, what promises, what subtle, chilling threats were dissolved within its sugary sweetness? Or, what is far more insidious, what profound, absolute silence? The absence of a crucial truth. The omission of a vital detail that, had it been spoken, might have shattered the gilded cage of his perception. These are the nuances, the invisible threads that weave the true tapestry of power. These are the details that never stain the parchment of the royal chronicles, never find their way into the polished histories. Only the shadows, my dear, only the deepest, most patient shadows know the truth of how empires are truly ruled. One might gaze upon her, cloaked in the finest silk, jewels catching the distant light, and see only a queen ascendant. But to truly understand, one must peer beyond the shimmer, into the very pulse of her existence. For her, the Sultanate was not merely a realm to be ruled. It was the blood in her veins, the air she breathed, a life lived in exquisite, constant calculation. A throne carved not of stone, but of unrelenting will. Every breath, a strategic intake. Every glance, a silent command, a probing question, a silent judgment. The price of this golden crown, you see, was never merely the weight of its metal, nor the vastness of the treasury. It was the insidious, ever-present shadow of suspicion she herself meticulously wove, a veil that descended upon every soul within her reach, even her own, a silence that choked honesty, leaving only whispers in its wake. Her son, the young Sultan, Lord of the world, was the axis upon which her universe turned. Her most precious asset, the very vessel of the dynasty's bloodline, yet also her gravest risk. His weakness, a fragile thing she carefully nurtured, was her undeniable strength. It ensured her hand remained firmly on the silken reins, guiding his youthful impulses, shaping his nascent reign. But his burgeoning strength, that was a different matter entirely. A burgeoning threat, a rising sun that one day might seek to cast off the very shadow that had brought it forth, the shadow of his mother. She knew, deep in the silent chambers of her heart, where secrets coiled like vipers, that the moment he truly recognized his own power, the moment he yearned for absolute sovereignty, he would strive to sever the threads of her influence. He would try to break free from the invisible cage she had so carefully constructed around him. And then, my friends, the true game would begin. A brutal, desperate contest not merely for the throne, but for survival itself. For in this court, the path to power is often paved with betrayal, and the price of losing is a swift, merciless oblivion, often delivered with a sweet smile and a cup of poison. Did she find joy within this gilded cage, this magnificent prison she had built brick by calculated brick? Did the boundless power bring her happiness, or merely a chilling solitude, a heavy crown upon an aching soul? One must wonder. Was she the ultimate architect of her own fate, or merely another cog in the vast, ruthless mechanism she had perfected? A mechanism that demanded unending sacrifice. Such questions are not whispered in these opulent halls, for they speak of vulnerabilities that cannot be afforded, cracks in the armor that invite ruin. Power, you see, is a peculiar poison. It promises immense strength, a formidable grip on destiny. Yet with every draft, it slowly, irrevocably kills the soul, leaving behind only the cold, hard shell of an unyielding will, an empire built on the bones of what once was. Behind the pillar, my voice a low rumble, barely a whisper carried by the chamber's vastness. They speak of sultans, do they not? Of magnificent reigns and swift conquests. Of the grand viziers, whose names are carved into the annals of a fleeting glory. But look closer, my dear. Observe the shifting sands of this court, the ebb and flow of male ambition. What truly endures here beyond the fleeting breath of a single man? Sultans ascend, their eyes bright with the promise of eternal dominion. Viziers rise from obscurity, their hands grasping for the reins of power, only to find them slick with the blood of those who came before. Empires, too, are but transient things, built on the shifting foundations of men's wills and whims. But beneath the gilded ceilings, behind the tapestries heavy with the dust of centuries, there exists a power far more ancient, far more insidious. A power that flows not through the veins of a single ruler, but through the very stones of this palace, through the very fabric of its existence. This, you see, is the true legacy of the Valide Sultan. Not merely a son on the throne, not a favored minister or a new decree. No, she leaves behind a system. A grand, intricate tapestry woven from whispers and loyalties, from fear and ambition. A web where silk can be sharper than any blade, where a single, unsaid word can condemn a dynasty, and silence can echo louder than the Sultan's own pronouncements. For generations, they have perfected this art, these women of the harem. From the moment a girl steps into these gilded cages, she begins to learn. She learns that beauty is a weapon, yes, but a fragile one. That intellect is a shield, but often too heavy to wield alone. The true power lies in understanding the unseen currents, in mastering the dance of shadows. She must learn to read the slight tremor in a hand, the fleeting glance in an eye, the weight of a gift, the precise moment to offer a cup, or to refuse it. For every woman who dares to ascend, this becomes her relentless curriculum. The Valide, even in her gilded tomb, casts a shadow long enough to engulf the entire court. Her influence does not die with her breath. It is embedded in the very walls, in the fears of the powerful, in the hopes of the desperate. She leaves behind a blueprint for survival, a grim inheritance passed from mother to daughter, from elder concubine to ambitious newcomer. It is a whispered doctrine, taught not with scrolls, but with glances, with subtle maneuvers, with the chilling knowledge that betrayal is always a breath away. It matters little who sits upon the peacock throne, for the real ruler is often the one who holds the silken threads in the darkness, the one who orchestrates the ballet of loyalty and ambition from behind unseen curtains. This is not a fable spun for children, my dear, but the relentless, pulsating heart of history itself. And it never truly ends. Because the shadows, like hungry specters, will always find new vessels to inhabit, new minds to sway, new hands to manipulate. A silk scarf, perhaps dropped in haste, perhaps left as a deliberate message, lies forgotten on the polished marble floor. It remains there, untouched by the servants, ignored by the passing guards, a silent sentinel, a permanent reminder of a power that has no face, no crown, no name. Only a shadow, always a shadow.